Hey guys, let's see. All right, Facebook is live. Let's check in on YouTube. Looks like that's live too. Good news, good news. Happy Sunday, y'all. Happy Mother's Day to all the mamas out there, including the mamas like me that have the four-legged babies. And all the versions of the mamas. Okay, so happy Mother's Day, happy day to all of us. Um, Before I dive into the service, I want to just share a little bit about why I'm doing this. Um, well, the simple and straightforward answer is I was called, right? That it's been there for a while, and I guess I worked up the courage to say yes. Um, and maybe that's not even the truth. So let me put it more directly, rather than filtering it through this personality. The truth is that the no bullshit truth is that which is inside of me has now overridden that which I think I am. So the heart or the divinity in me has overridden the identity. And so I didn't even need to work up the courage. That's what I was doing for months, if not years, working up the courage to, fulfill whatever destiny or whatever wants to come out and come through and come on into your hearts and ears. So that was a struggle. And then the surrender was like, okay, yes, to whatever the guidance says, guidance from within, not someone somewhere out there in the sky, or even the amazing coaches and guides that I work with and hire, like not even letting external forces, if you will, as well meaning and wonderful as you all are, um, dictate what I do in this world. So, so there it is. There it is. That's why we're here. And and I just want to start by maybe sharing a little bit of foundation. So, Divinity Ministry is something that I am in the process of founding. Don't know how to do it, but we'll figure it out along the way. I'm also I've submitted already for the minister's degree, I guess it is. I don't know what the legal terminology is. So I'm just waiting to get back my thumbs up from that. But this has all been underway for a while. So Divinity Ministry is truly about two things. Number one, discover your divinity or know it, like beyond discover it, know it. And by know it, I mean you live it, you embody it, you are intimately living your divinity. And number two is fulfill your destiny, right? So that's a next level. Discover and live your divinity first. Um, and what I've come to understand is, and in so doing, we are automatically fulfilling our destiny. Now, does that mean that I think that everything is predestined or preordained? No, I actually think that um, we get to influence what that destiny is. It's the same for each one of us, the returning home to our truth, to our heart, to our preconditioned state of unconditional love. I do believe that's the ultimate destiny for all human beings. We were given these human bodies and these minds and these mouths to speak words, the two gifts of mind and speech, so that we could realize our divinity and fulfill our destiny, which is the returning to that infinite, loving, peaceful, joyful, harmonious state while in physical form, meaning, and with all that, live life, do stuff, have fun, make shit, right? So the mission, if you will, of Divinity Ministry is know your divinity and fulfill your destiny. And that's the journey that we're on up in here. Okay. So, so what I suppose, we're still feeling it all out, right? But what I suppose I'll do is a Sunday service, live like this, live streamed. Um, I don't know if I'll live stream it to Facebook and YouTube like I am currently, or if it'll be a Zoom where everybody who wants to participate can join the Zoom. I haven't figured that one out yet. Maybe if you have an opinion, you're welcome to share that in the chat or comments. I would love to hear what you have to say about that. But there are 3 basic elements, as far as I can tell, to these Sunday service experiences. Number 1 will be the sermon, and I'm using quote fingers, you guys, because these words like Sunday service, sermon, and even the word ministry, to me, I have had to deliberately break the association that I previously had about those words and their religious entanglement, because this is not about any kind of religion. Nothing wrong with any kind of religion that you may subscribe to. I just don't, because I find that religion sort of is like the politics of spirituality, meaning religion can mold a spiritual an idea of spirituality, which is pure in its essence and truth at its foundation, and mold it into something that can, respectfully said, manipulate people and do a disservice to our greatest expression. Right. And for me, that I don't want to, I'm not here to undo or teach you some, to go against it. I'm just not going to fight against something. I'm just going to share what my experiences, my knowing, the truth that's on my heart. Right. So the words, again, ministry and divinity and service and sermon and shit like that, like, please don't mistake those coming from me in any religious context. All right. And so that's why I use quote fingers when I say these things. Just so you know, I'm using these because they're the best words that I have at the moment to describe what I'm up to. Okay. But if you have any questions about that, or you want more clarification, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm happy to dig more deeply into why I'm going like this and using the words that I am when Divinity Ministry and myself are completely unaffiliated with any religion. Okay. So the programming for Sunday service, getting back to that, is we're starting with the sermon, which is where I'll share with you what's come through for me. Don't need that lash. I'll share with you what's come through for me, which I write down. This is the book. I receive it all in. It's nice and golden. And then I will do a Q&A. So sermon, Q&A, and then we will conclude each Sunday service with a metaphysical prayer. Okay, and I'll talk more about what a metaphysical prayer is probably in this session, so that you can get a foundation, knowing and an understanding of what I mean when I say metaphysical prayer, because again, it's not what most people have been taught. Praying as like pleading, hoping, wishing, wanting to be granted something that I so desperately need from God out there somewhere in the air. Not that. Okay. So again, we're doing the sermon, the Q&A, and then the prayer to conclude the service. And my encouragement for you is to come on live so that you can participate in the Q&A and in the presence of our powerful, potent prayer. Okay, now if you're watching this on replay, that's fine too. Maybe tune in, just all put aside all distractions when it comes to the prayer time and imagine you are present with the words that are being spoken. That's my invitation to you. All right, so I'm just going to check in here on Facebook. I don't know how to see the comments. It says no comments yet. So, all right, if you're on Facebook and you're watching this, it looks like there's 2 people who are watching this live. If you could do me a huge favor, Christy Mank. All right, girl. Hey, thank you so much for saying hello. That was going to be my request. Drop a comment. Let me know you're here so that I can see where these comments are, because I'm using a streaming service that is going out to Facebook and fingers crossed, YouTube right now. All right, so let's see. And my YouTube is brand spanking new, at least it is relative to this. So I don't know if anybody even knows I'm live on YouTube, which is fine. I might do some adjusting around that a little bit later. But all right, so coming back, thank you for your patience as I'm getting, the feel for all of this. I appreciate you bearing with me. So let's dive in to today's sermon. A mother's love. So if you saw the post that I made on Facebook earlier, I was asking if you could recall that state of unconditional, ever-present, like blissful provision from inside your mother's womb. And of course, it's very unlikely that you can. But when we leave the mother's womb, when we're kicked out into the world, kicking and screaming, we leave that which we then spend the rest of our lives, most people, trying to return to internally within ourselves. In other words, we leave what feels like heaven, and kind of is, right? It's the place of creation in the physical body, but we leave that perfection and we do all these things. We acquire all this stuff. We achieve all these statuses and levels of success and so on and so forth. You get where I'm going. Because we think that the acquisition of those things, the achievement of those things will somehow, some way make us feel that love, that peace, that joy, that harmony that we felt before entering into this world. But it never works that way. So when I'm talking about unconditional love and infinite provision, think of it like the 3 main basics are peace, joy, and love. I like to think about them as freedom in our hearts. So all of those things, it gives us the experience of freedom in our hearts and fulfillment in our lives. And so in my experience, the only way to have the freedom in our hearts and the fulfillment in our lives, the love, the peace, the joy, is to know it's already here. It's always been here. And it's simply about returning home to ourselves. Okay. And I say simply as in that's all you got to do. But it ain't easy because we got this thing called an ego, which is a useful tool for navigating this physical world that we live in. But The ego acts as a barrier to that bliss that's always been there. Okay. So this conversation is truly about feeling that unconditional mother's love. It's Mother's Day, right? Feeling the unconditional mother's love that we've never lost in our hearts, not through the acquisition or achievement of anything. And we don't even, you guys, we don't even have to be spiritual people, right? Be good spiritual students. We don't have to meditate. We don't have to pray. We don't have to practice yoga. We don't got to do anything to know the love in our own hearts. Okay, it's always there. It's been granted to us by the virtue of our being, our birth, and the return home is a worthy journey. By the way, even the language of journey implies you got to go somewhere and do something. That's also not true. The journey is actually a present moment. Okay, the journey inward, the journey home doesn't have to take years. It doesn't have to. It does often, because our ego says you got to work hard, earn it, overcome your limitations, and become worthy of that level of love, which a lot of people will never even attempt to go out on that journey consciously. Other people will attempt and will spend their whole damn lives on the journey, which bless you, but you don't have to, okay? It's a simple, straightforward realization, a reckoning, a remembering of who you are, okay? So think of it this way. And some of you that have been following me, you know I talk about this shit all the time. You've got your identity and then you've got your divinity. And we have these two things, right? I think of your identity as your ego, and it's limited, right? We're limited by these physical bodies and our five senses, and our, the brain or whatever can only consume and process so much information. But that aspect of us, our divinity that's animating it all, the ultimate animator, consciousness or God, source energy, the divine, that's present here too. And we, you and me, and all human beings, we're gifted these physical forms on planet Earth, the planet of manifestation, right? So that we could, again, realize our divinity and fulfill our destiny, realize who we are. We are not our physical bodies. We are not what our ego says we are, meaning the roles and the responsibilities that we have. We are not mothers, for example. Yes, that's a role you have, an important one, a beautiful one, but it's not who you are. It's part of your identity, but your divinity is infinite. And if you were to place the label mother or anything else, man, woman, white, black, anything, tall, short, right? If we were to place a label on our divinity, it would no longer be infinite. It would no longer be God. And that just isn't the truth, okay? So this divinity, and I'm pointing kind of like to the center of my chest, like to my heart, right? Like, it just knows that I'm talking about. So metaphorically, I see the heart as the seat of our divinity, right? It's where the soul resides, I like to say. And It's this aspect of ourselves that we can access to expand our perspective of ourselves, right? And when we expand our perspective of ourselves, again, we're feeling love, we're feeling peace, we're experiencing joy. And when we're there, y'all, oh my God, it's beautiful. A, B, we're able to see the divinity in the apparent other and the apparent world outside of us. Okay, so in other words, we experience divinity. It feels like love, it feels like peace, it feels like joy, it's expansive. The problems in my life, the problems of my body, my worries, my doubts, my fears, my angst and anxiety, any of that is gone. In that instant that I am present to my divinity, and I'm using me, but it's like you too, right? In that instant that I'm present to my divinity, there are no fucking problems. Okay, that's just the nature of presence. That's just the nature of love. That's just the nature of our divinity. Okay, and so then when I open my eyes and look externally, I see you as that divine being. I see you as joy and peace and abundance and love, right? That's the gift that being present with our divinity gives us in the physical world. We can see others as the same as one. In other words, we experience oneness. And what a wonderful fucking way to be. It just is so much more freeing in relationships, personal and professional, relationships to strangers, relationship to money, relationship to health, relationship to home, relationship to nature, relationship to all the wonders of the motherfucking world, y'all. Okay? So, knowing our divinity, experiencing oneness, and then traveling through this world way more satisfied than the limited, contracted, looking out for my best interest ego self, that identity that we have so much invested in, right? It's who we think we are. It's not. These are roles that we play and responsibilities that we've taken on. They are aspects of our humanity, absolutely. So it's not about denying our humanity or diminishing it in any way. Um, but if we can elevate our humanity and live more joyful, free flowing, joyful, I already said that, abundant, amazing lives, wouldn't that be like a better way to roll? You tell me. Let me hear your thoughts and comments. Alexis is here. Thank you for joining, Alexis. Love to see you. Let's see. All right, just taking a break while you guys drop a comment in the chat if you'd like. I'm gonna take a drink of water. Cool, appreciate your patience. Okay, so let me just say a couple things out of the old notebook here. One of the things that was shown to me was this, and I'll just read it. To experience the freedom and love in our heart, we must heal the distortions our humanity has created. They include fear, guilt, shame, and anger. You guys are probably all familiar with those things. I mean, they're just part of being human. We have this whole range of emotions. Some we label as good and some we label as bad, and we try to avoid the bad ones. We don't do a great job of it because it's impossible to avoid your human emotions. So we try to distract ourselves from that with things, or we sweep them under the rug, or we suppress them. None of this shit's healthy. And then we try to like get more of the good ones, right? But this freedom and love in our hearts that's always there can seem hard to experience or to access because of the distortions that our humanity has created, that our identity has created. And again, the fear, the guilt, the shame, the anger, these lower vibrational emotions are all part of being human. They're meant to rise and dissipate, rise and dissipate. Like that's the normal cycle of life. And some days it's like boobity doobity, like throughout the day it's just high, low, high, low, high, low. Other days are pretty stable in one area or another emotionally. Um, Ideally, these emotions would rise, whether that's joy or anger, and then dissipate of their own accord. We wouldn't be trying to avoid it or suppress it or attach to it and like milk it. That's what we do. We avoid and attach ourselves based on how something feels. But in an ideal experience of our humanity, these feelings would rise up and dissipate, just like an ocean wave, y'all. Okay. But when it comes to these lower vibrational ones like fear, worry, doubt, shame, anger, guilt, that's a big one. Because we don't like the way that they feel, we do everything we can think of to avoid feeling them. We sweep them under the rug. We distract ourselves with food or TV or social media or booze or drugs or whatever. And by the way, I say all this from experience. I know all the ways to avoid and distract myself from my feelings. Um, and because it was so disruptive to my life, that behavior, that was the catalyst many years ago that set me on the path, if you will, to really developing a method, if you will, for managing my emotions, my regulating my nervous system so that I could experience more of a steady state and let the highs and the lows come and go, right? And not be like so fucking down in the dumps that I'm drunk at noon, or so angry that I spew venom over the people I love the most, or so like, I don't know. I don't know that there's I don't know that there's an unproductive high level of happiness or joy or peace. Um, So I can't speak to that. I just know that being in sort of a steady state of like it's a neutral state that I experience high happiness and all the good vibes, but also the shadowy shit, right? The down vibes. It's just that this stuff doesn't take me down anymore. Right. So I can get myself back to neutral much more rapidly. And I'm just saying from experience, y'all, that's way more productive and a much better way to live. So, the distortions that our humanity has created um, tend to get swept under the rug, held onto, we think, out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, no. They are stored in our cellular memories. They're stored in our hearts, often creating a blockage energetically, a block from that freedom and love that we want to experience so dang much. So we've got to heal that shit. That's the bottom line. We got to heal the misunderstanding in our heart to experience this unconditional love, peace, bliss, joy, and so on. Okay. And then to put that into action, to walk in this world with that in our hearts. Let me just tell you, what you say, what you do, how you show up, it's different. Okay. So, um, let's see, what else do I have to say about that? Okay, let me pause there and check the chat, check the comments to see. Oh shit. Hmm. All right, so Christy says, sometimes it seems like experiencing presence is an elusive experience. All right, Christy, I invite you to say more about what you mean elusive experience. I understand the word, it'll like presence or God or whatever that, however you want to language that, eludes you. So ask a specific question that I can help clarify for you. I think we're probably moving out of the sermon of this unconditional love is always here. And um, to access it, we got to heal those distortions, those misunderstandings about ourselves, right? So identity perceives ourselves as this finite, limited person. Meanwhile, we don't know our divinity, so we really only experience a very limited um, level of peace and joy and love. Yeah. All right. So that's the sermon, right? And now we're moving into the Q&A. And I appreciate you rolling with me as I fumble through this first Sunday service. All right, Christy says, like when I get into a space of presence, love, wholeness, the distortions and distractions pop up and presence is gone. Okay. I don't know exactly what my question is, though. Okay. So let me ask you a question, Christy. The distortions, distractions, they pop up and presence is gone. Ooh, okay, got it. So the presence isn't gone. Your awareness of presence, of the presence of love, is on something else, is on a distortion or a distraction. Yes? And I guess my question to you then would be, um, okay, what's wrong with that? Yeah, girl, you got that. I knew you would. But yeah, my question to you is like, okay, why are you judging it? Why are you judging where your awareness happens to be? Is it frustrating because you just want to like linger in the love and the presence and the wholeness? You want to stay in that state longer. And so it's frustrating when the distractions take your attention off of it. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Yeah. 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 You would desire to linger in the love. Okay. So my offer or invitation to you, yeah, understood. Too many distractions. So those distractions are a creation, interpretation of your identity. Okay, your divinity doesn't know distraction because all is well. From the aspect of your divinity, it's all good, right? It's all good, it's all God, literally everything. Even the shit that we consider to be horrific is all God, experiencing God. Okay. Our identity is calling it a distraction or horrible or terrible and all of these things. Okay. And yes, from that perspective of our identity, it's absolutely not wanted or horrible or horrific. And I'm now thinking in terms of some more intense things. Okay. Not just the distraction in our mind that pops up when we're in that loving place, but to our identity, which is finite, limited, and fears death ultimately, to our identity, those are horrible things. And then oftentimes what happens is we're like, we want to fix it. right? And so even with these distractions that pop up when you want to linger in love, okay, so they can just be benign little things, or like you said, there's too many distractions. These are what your identity has created, and your awareness is focused on. Nothing wrong with that. Totally normal stuff. In fact, lately I've been experiencing a lot more of my awareness sort of unconsciously being pulled to the distortions and the distractions, these um, thoughts and feelings that are not what I want to think and feel. They don't feel productive to me. Um, but instead of giving myself shit, which I'm pretty good at giving myself shit, I bet we all are. But instead of giving myself shit, simply I simply recognize that's just part of the habit of my humanity. My identity is very much caught up in and concerned with certain things um, that are absolutely valid and important to the I don't want to use survival. That feels a little extreme, but I'll just use it for the sake of this conversation, to the survival of the Colette that you see sitting here. um, but I too prefer to linger in the presence of love and peace and joy, the immovable, imperturbable peace that is the divinity within me. I prefer that feeling, that emotion, and to be guided into action from that place. Okay, so that's a preference of mine. So when the distractions of my identity unconsciously pull my awareness out of alignment, which even using that terminology implies that being in alignment is good. We're good if we're in alignment. And being out of alignment is bad. And so then we get caught up in that identity shit that likes to label and separate us from the infinite. Okay, so it can be super complex, but I'm trying to simplify it for us. So, yeah, so what I do and have been doing sometimes many times a day recently is to simply go, that's just a thought. Now, if it's a thought that I'm like, I've been thinking about it unconsciously for a few seconds and it's negative, and I know my thoughts turn to things, and I'm like, fuck, I don't want to manifest that, I will simply say, delete. In fact, I see it like swiping on my damn phone when I'm deleting a text, when you swipe it and it goes red and then you hit delete. Yeah. So I imagine deleting those negative thoughts and feelings that I unconsciously was diverted to away from the deliberate, positive, productive thoughts and feelings and actions that I want to be taking and living on a daily basis. So I saw your comment about thinking you might have an unrealistic idea of what presence is or should be. That's likely the case. It certainly was for me. I believe too, Christy, that that's the foundation of why most religions, and I'm not saying that you're religious at all, but just I'm saying this is why most people who are religious aren't experiencing freedom and love, joy, abundance, and peace, right? That's why so many people are not experiencing unconditional love, their divinity, oneness, right? That's why we're not in a cooperative state with one another, because we have an unrealistic idea of what presence or spirit or God is. And so that, my girl, is why I founding Divinity Ministry, to to demonstrate a new way of knowing God or the presence, okay, or love, which includes ourselves. So I invite you to come back to these services because that's the foundation of what we're going to be talking about here this entire time. Knowing our divinity, which is another way to say knowing God, knowing who we really are. Yes, we are physical, finite human beings as well as extensions, localizations of God, which is a pretty cool thing. And if we can relate more so to this aspect of ourselves, our divinity, then what we experience through our human form in our physical world will be that much more satisfying. Okay? Yep. All right. So let me just read through these comments. I love that you're in this conversation, Christy. Thank you for your participation. Having this dialogue really helps direct this service in a specific way. So thank you very much. You say, even sitting in this space, I see I am and have been super judgmental with myself and my process. Again, super normal, especially for those of us that are spiritual seekers, right? We tend to be the hardest on ourselves, which just drives the wedge between us, our identity, and our divinity even deeper. Okay, it moves us further away from that unconditional love and oneness that we know we are. But this identity aspect of us has a real hard time grasping. And that's okay, right? It's actually part of the design is to forget that we are God, that we are infinite, that we are consciousness, limitless, right? It's part of the design to forget that. It's just that we know it, right? We know it in our heart, but we have so much conditioning throughout the many generations and cultures and teachings, a lot of religious stuff. And I didn't even go to church or read the Bible. With a lot of people like were brought up in that environment. So there's been like direct programming, but even if we didn't grow up in that environment, we still receive the programming because of how rampant it is, how much the fundamental collective beliefs are about who we are and who God is. So even if we weren't in that specific conversation growing up or at this point in our lives, like even without that, we still believe it on some level because it's so bought into by the people, by the collective. I don't like to use the word the collective, right? It's just what is it's a foundational belief about who we are, that we are not God, and that we gotta fucking earn that worthiness, earn that love, earn that respect, and all of these things. And so for those of us that are, for whatever reason, on a spiritual path or spiritual journey, we're eager to return home. We're eager to lead others through the demonstration of our own lives, right? We're eager to shine our light on the path for other people to experience that love, that freedom, that joy, that bliss, that harmony. And what I still see happening for so many like us is the number one barrier to that bliss, right? The presence, the lingering presence, love. The number one barrier to that is a greater belief in the identity that over your divinity, right? You believe more in your individual identity, your finiteness, than you do in your divinity or infiniteness. It's hard for our ego, our human minds. It's hard for our egos to just believe that we are God, right? Like people don't like hearing that, but that's ultimately what we are, right? Everything is God. Everything is God. Everything is God, which includes me and it includes you and it includes that shitty shit that's happening in the world too. It's all God. Okay. So it's a hard thing for our heads to buy into. And so we go looking for ways around it, ways through it. Well, what if this, then that? And so we try to process that information, that truth that we already know in our hearts. Remember, there's distortions on our heart from our human misunderstandings, by holding on to unconsciously fears, doubts, guilt, shame, anger, right? All of these natural human things that we think are bad or wrong that we have suppressed and believed on some level to be true about us in our identity. So now we got this fucking identity that's all coiled up and and harboring that which we judge as unlovable and not at all like the divine, right? And so it's hard for that aspect or that version of us to believe that we are, in fact, divine, the divine, right? So, all right. So let's see. Lots of wounding around God and religion. That's exactly right. Have been healing around that for years. Yeah, girl. I know you have. I see you. And a lot of people are in that exact same boat. And what I'll say is even the years worth of healing that is all appeasing the identity aspect of you, right? The recognition of your divinity will heal that shit instantly. And then you can get on with it. You don't have to always be healing. Okay? Only our identity, it feels like it's done wrong, been wronged, and needs to work out and work through and work on and find its way back home. Only our identity can get stuck in healing for years. Your divinity, which is who you are, remember, this is animating your entire everything. Your divinity is already whole. It was never not whole, complete, divine, perfection. Yes? So that's why Divinity Ministry and all of my work from here forward is focused on one thing primarily. Know your divinity. Okay? Like I said, that second part, fulfill your destiny, that can't happen if you're stuck in your identity. We cannot fulfill our destiny if we're still primarily associating with our identity. Okay? We just can't. So knowing our divinity is primary motivator number one. All right, let me check out your comments. Christy, girl, you're feeling that. Yes. Christy says, I have greater belief in individual identity than I do in my divinity. I don't like that. but it sure feels true. Even after all these years of working on this. I know, babe. I know. Um, and it's a common model that is put in place by our identities, our well-meaning identities. It's a common model that's put into place around, the what do you want? Put a plan, an action plan in place to get it, and now commit yourself, right, to getting that outcome. Well, there's a reason why there's a 97% failure rate in all personal development, spiritual development work, I guess. 97% failure, and that includes diet, exercise, the spiritual stuff, right? Like 97% failure rate. Because it's all focused on fixing some element of our identity. And I don't know why I'm putting it over here, like identity over here and divinity over here. That's irrelevant. Like there are no, like, you know what I mean? I don't know if I just use my hands because I talk with my hands. So, but it's because they are speaking to and teaching to that limited, fundamentally flawed, and I put quote fingers because that's just what we perceive ourselves to be on some level, conscious or not. We perceive ourselves to be fundamentally flawed, separate, if you will, from God. And so when I talked about being kicked out of the mother's womb, right? So in the mother's womb is the unconditional love. We are provided for, all of our needs are met, right? We long for nothing. The love is there, the food is there, the safety is there, the comfort is there, everything we need is there. And when we get kicked out, we are then from that moment forward trying to get back home to that unconditional love, absolute peace and provision. Okay. But what we don't realize is everything, a lot of stuff is designed to speak to and teach to our perceived flawed, meaning we're kicked out, so something must be wrong with us, right? We got kicked out of heaven, of the infinite consciousness. We got kicked out and had to come into these limited bodies that feel pain, that suffer, that are, hurt and afraid. And we perceive that as it happened because, and again, this is on an unconscious, subconscious level, but we perceive that all happened because I am unworthy of love, of God's love, of the love of my mama's womb, right? We perceive it that way. And that just is the fundamental misunderstanding. If you want to talk about it, original sin, that's it. Sin simply means misunderstanding, missing the mark. Okay, so the original sin is thinking that we're separate from God. Okay, that we have to earn his love, and he's somewhere out there in the air. And if I'm good enough, if I heal myself enough, I can experience that peace again. I can experience that love again. I can experience that joy that I know is there. I get glimpses of it from time to time. But that's just not the truth. Okay, that's why I'm doing this work. That's why I started this ministry. That's why I'm doing this service. Okay, so I love you too, girl. Thank you for all your comments. Know your divinity, and yeah, I mean, I'm still working with people, and Christy, I'll be sure to invite you to a new way that I'm going to be working with people to support that primary directive. Know your divinity. So I'll let you know about that. But that's really the only thing I'm up to, because without knowing that, girl, we're just going to be on the hamster wheel of self-healing for the rest of our natural lives. And boy, oh boy, we got better shit to do. Nothing wrong with doing all the work we've done. Nothing wrong with, girl, I just read 2 books in the last 2 days around healing. So nothing wrong with that. I read them because I love that shit. And so nothing wrong with spending the time and the money and the energy on these things. It's just, if we're not also experiencing the ultimate outcome of those efforts, which is lasting peace, joy, love, freedom. Remember, freedom in our hearts, fulfillment in our lives. If we're not experiencing that, then we're on the hamster wheel and we're just stuck in our broken identity, our fundamentally flawed, limited self. Okay? We are not actually realizing our divinity. And so when we do remember who we are, this divine being that animates this, and we link those two up, we link up our divinity and our identity, well, girl, it gets real good. Real good. And that's what I want for us. Okay? All right. So moving into the third aspect, let's see. Just check in the comments, make sure I didn't miss anything. Yep, feel free to drop more comments if you will. I will check back later, but I'm going to go ahead and move now into the third aspect of this service, metaphysical prayer. All right, so let me just talk a moment briefly about what metaphysical prayer is. And I'll do that by distinguishing between like traditional prayers, where we sort of like, we look up because we think God is out there somewhere. And I think I might have lost the signal. All right, we got a few more minutes here. Let me come back to Facebook. It says waiting for video signal. All right, hopefully you guys can see this. All right, so metaphysical prayer is not praying to a God out there, asking, pleading our case for something, hoping that he hears us and grants us that which we desire. Okay, so metaphysical, that's traditional prayer. Metaphysical prayer is, again, knowing the divine or God is within us. And so we allow ourselves to access that aspect of us. We experience our divinity. So the identity sort of softens, and we can use breathing, a few deep breaths, if you will, to soften the contraction and the identification with our identity, and allow ourselves to experience the divine or God already present here now in me. And I say in, it's not actually physically in, because we are in God and God is in us, but it's not just in here, right? Like I'm some little special container, full of God. No, we remember the oneness, right? God is all there is. And so we allow ourselves, we soften the awareness around our identity, which allows us to experience our divinity, and we say thank you, right? We are grateful for the presence of this infinite divine Father, if you like that language, of all life, all that is. We simply acknowledge, I am this, and I'm grateful for being this. And then we can be more specific. So we can soften the association with our identity. I'm repeating myself here. Accessing that infinite divinity and appreciate that presence and who I am, right? And if you like the phrases, Father, thank you, Father, or thank you, God, then you're like, by all means, use those words if those resonate with you. One of the ways that I get myself into that metaphysical prayer state is to say something like, I focus my mind on love and truth. I fill my heart with love and truth. Okay, so sometimes I repeat that, focus my mind, and it's like I am calling forth. I'm being with authority. I make the statement. It's not an ask. Can I? Will you? Please help with this. It's a definitive statement. I am, or thank you for something. And so I like to say the phrase in my mind, focus my mind on love and truth, fill my heart with love and truth. And when I'm experiencing that, right? So I give myself little prompts until it's just there, right? I am experiencing love and truth. And that's when I then plant the seed. And today it was, after repeating, focus my mind on love and truth, fill my heart with love and truth. And I found myself focused and full of love and truth. Then I introduced the statement, my body is perfect in form and function. Okay, so that's a statement of affirmation that I added to that simple presencing of love and truth in my mind and in my heart. Okay, sometimes I say thank you and I will just rattle off what I'm thankful for, and that is prayer. That's metaphysical prayer. It's acknowledging the infinite and the aspect of the infinite that I am experiencing. And I mean, you've heard this before, that what you focus on expands, what you appreciate appreciates. So even on those days when it feels like shit ain't going well and I'm running out of money or whatever I got going on, rather than, please, God, please find me a new client or some version of that. That's traditional prayer, by the way. All it's saying is, I don't have enough, I don't trust, I'm desperate, I'm fearful. Like, that is not love and truth in our mind and in our heart. That is not being one with God. That is not how we pray. Okay, we're just going to get more of that unwanted shit if that's what we're doing with our mind and our words. Okay, so appreciating, even if it's a dime, if we have a dime left to our name, then we appreciate the fuck out of that dime in metaphysical prayer. And because the divine, our divinity, because God is infinite, and we are appreciating that one aspect of that infinite that exists, that will Absolutely, some way, somehow. It is not our job to know how. We get so caught up, the identity gets so caught up in how it's going to happen. And then we're stuck in the identity, freaking the fuck out, anxious, unable to sleep, spiraling, caught up in those distractions and distortions, rather than at peace, in joy, in freedom, and in love, and allowing the limitlessness, the infinite, abundant provider give us an idea who to call, where to go. It seems like magic and miracles, but it only seems that way to the ego or the identity that is limited and thinks life is linear, and if you don't do this, you can't do that. It only seems that way to that part of ourselves. To our divinity, it's just normal, natural stuff. So metaphysical prayer isn't about asking for something from a place of desperation or worry or doubt. That's not prayer, y'all. Metaphysical prayer is about getting into a state of love and truth and peace and bliss. And even like, don't even let those words, like, that might feel like too big. So you just get still. And again, you can use that mantra, focus my mind on love and faith. Sorry, love and truth. Fill my heart with love and truth. If you want to use that mantra, focus my mind on love and truth. Fill my heart with love and truth. And you just, in your mind, you just say that over and over. Anything negative that comes up, you just breathe it out. That's just a thought. If the thoughts are all, those are just thoughts. All is well. I'm here now. I'm here now. Fill my mind with love and truth. Fill my heart with love and truth. Focus my mind on love and truth, right? And once you're there, then it's a declarative statement. It can start with the words thank you, or it can just simply be, my body is perfect in form and function. And to divinity, that is absolutely true now. Okay? So once you are satisfied that your prayer was heard by God, which is in you, so you heard it, right? You heard you. Once you're satisfied that that prayer was given and received in that loving state, and if you can't quite get to loving, get to neutral, but it can't be this distorted state, worried, doubtful, and afraid, okay? That's your identity. That's not prayer. So once you've given and received that prayer, then you can go on about your day and just know that it's underway. It's all coming together. Okay? All right, so any questions? I see Alexis is still here. I thank you for still being here with me. Dang, you're hanging in there, man. I appreciate that. So I hope this helps. Like I said, this is the first, and my intention is that this becomes a weekly Sunday thing. It probably won't be at this time, so just bear with me as I feel my way through the best logistics of bringing this to you guys. And let me know in the comments what you liked, what you would like more of, and how I can support you in knowing your divinity. All right, you guys, have a beautiful, beautiful Sunday. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you later.